It's an exciting time to be a Murakami fan. I feel like new films based off his work keep popping up again and again. First it was Burning, and now Drive My Car. For those of you who don't know, Drive My Car is a brand new Japanese drama film directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, and its name comes from the Haruki Murakami short story Drive My Car in the collection Men Without Women. Now this is going to be a spoiler-free video review, however I do recommend that all of you go out to your nearest indie theater and try to check out this film while it's on the big screen, because I do think that this is a movie that you need to enjoy in a cinema to really get the most out of it. Before I go on, I just wanted to thank everyone who has been supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. If you want to support my content, please consider subscribing. I post regular videos about books, but of course also videos like these about films and cinema. I also appreciate it when people comment on my videos. I really love it when I can talk to people about the things that I'm producing and hearing what they're reading or watching or anything like that. If you want to support me financially, you can leave a $3 donation on my Ko-fi page or subscribe to Medium through my link below. Without further ado, let's talk about Drive My Car. So one thing to know about this movie is that it's actually an amalgamation of two short stories by Haruki Murakami. For some reason, every single film review I've read about this movie seems to completely ignore this fact. And I think it's because most people who write about this movie haven't actually read much Murakami. So they probably actually haven't encountered the short story collection Men Without Women. But this film is actually not just Drive My Car, but also the short story Scheherazade, which is also in the short story collection. And how Hamaguchi makes it work is that the first part of the film is based off of Scheherazade, and it's about the main character's wife, Oto, who is kind of like the Scheherazade character from the story. She has these moments of epiphany where these fiction stories just come to her when she climaxes in bed, and then she spends the rest of the time after sex telling that story and recounting it to the main character, who is the kind of receptacle, the king, who is listening to her stories every single night. Then the latter half of the movie, that is based off of the short story Drive My Car, where it really focuses on the relationship between Yusuke Kafuku, who is the main character, as well as Misaki Watari, who becomes his main driver. This film was actually meant to be set in Busan, South Korea, but because of the pandemic, it actually had to be moved to be filmed in Hiroshima. And at first I was a little bit skeptical about how he was going to stretch these short stories into a 3-hour-long movie, but I was really impressed by the plot mileage that Hamaguchi gets. Admittingly, and this is one of the downsides of the movie, is that a lot of the film's length comes from these really extended shots of people driving, and so at times the movie can feel like a bit of a slog. One impressive innovation that Hamaguchi makes on the stories is that he takes one little detail from Drive My Car, the story, the fact that the protagonist is really into the Chekhov play Uncle Vanya, and he blows up this detail to its maximum possibilities, and it really becomes a central plot device, and it really delves into the protagonist's relationship with art and asks some big questions about how he tells stories. Probably 20 to 30 minutes of the film is just Kafuku reciting the lines from Uncle Vanya practicing in his car in response to his wife's recorded voice. And there's this whole thing about how he's producing a theater production of Uncle Vanya, and then there's all these conflicts that arise between the actors and then the theater director himself. It's unfortunate for me because in my opinion, Uncle Vanya is not really that much of an interesting play. I think I would like watching Uncle Vanya, but because a lot of the movie is just reciting lines from Uncle Vanya out of context, and I don't think the lines are particularly interesting or vivid, so a lot of those scenes fell flat for me, but at the same time, I think Hamaguchi kind of wants you to feel a little bit of that monotony of having to listen to the lines. I think he liked the fact that the lines were a little bit deadpan and not that interesting because it gave the movie this very mesmerizing quality, which is what the movie begins with, is trying to hypnotize you with storytelling and with dialogue. And Hamaguchi does attempt to try to make those theater scenes really, really interesting and experimental. He even has all the actors speaking the lines from Uncle Vanya in different languages, even Korean Sign Language, which was really interesting to watch. So all in all, the conceit didn't work in the end for me, but I think it makes this movie really, really interesting and unique. And just for that alone, I think it's worth a watch because I think people will have so many different reactions to what he's trying to do. So I'd be really interested to see what you guys thought about that. This movie is very quiet, almost deafeningly quiet. But at the heart of it is really this question about intimacy. How do we become intimate with others through storytelling, through performative art, through sitting for hours on end with someone in a small old car? This is a very minimalist movie. The shots are clean, crisp, very plain. Nothing ever feels excessive or calculated. The story is really just there to provide a space for your own thoughts and memories to project onto the screen. And I think what you'll find is that your own thoughts and imagination is what comes to dominate the empty landscapes of the film. This film really reminds me of the Koreeda masterpiece Like Father, Like Son in terms of its slow pace as well as its slow burning emotional resonance. But I also do think that this film has a lot of commonality with Yi Chang-dong's Burning in terms of the psychological intensity of so many of its luxurious long shots. And maybe that's because both Burning and Drive My Car are based off of Murakami's stories. But to be honest, I thought that after the initial sequence in Drive My Car, the Murakami-esque feeling to the movie kind of slid off. Even in the sections where they're in a jazz bar and they're drinking and just kind of chatting about life, I didn't really feel like those scenes were trying to pander to Murakami fans at all. And I think that Hamaguchi was very successful in transcending the source material, making a character that is a lot more deep and rich and confused than Murakami's frankly kind of sexist narrator in the short story. So for me, Drive My Car was a pleasurable, although slightly flawed experience. So I think that if you are a Murakami fan or a fan of any of the directors that I mentioned, this is a movie that's definitely for you. And again, I definitely recommend that you go out and watch it before it gets taken off of the big screen. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and again, comment down below if you enjoy these kind of videos, if you want to see more of this, if you have any other films you want me to review. I'll see you guys in the next video.